For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, making a brand new video for you today. And today is part 2 of my series of music that could be considered a guilty pleasure, specifically the metal version or the metal adjacent version. So there's a few examples in this video, maybe the next video, that are maybe not 100% metal adjacent. And then I definitely plan on doing definitely a part 3, possibly a part 4 or 5, depending on how many more CDs I could pull up. And some of these bands I have LPs of, which, I mean, if you've seen the CDs, you can just take my word for it that I own the LPs, unless you really want to see them. But that's a whole separate thing. And then I want to do more videos like this, but I'm going to do the non-metal version. So music that I don't think anyone would consider metal, that I will show that I would guess would be considered my guilty pleasures. So just like I said in my first video, 2 quick caveats. One is I don't really feel guilty for these releases necessarily, but I definitely understand most people in the underground don't listen to these bands, either have never heard of them or find them deplorable, or by name only just throw them away. So I would say I'm not really guilty for these. I don't really care if you like them or not. I honestly do, because I feel like the same way other people are with their music, you can't really help what you like. You like what you like. So if you like something, you don't like something, I don't really need to justify it, but I figured it is a great video to do because people are asking for it. And then number 2, again, is that if you have never even heard a single song by this band, you don't really get to shit on them. Like, at least go ahead and listen to a single song. It's probably going to confirm your beliefs already, which is fine. I know most people who say they aren't going to like something, who've been in the scene longer than I have, I believe them. They probably won't. But you have to at least give something a try, because you don't know for sure. Otherwise, stop shitting on it. That's sort of where I stand. So that's my caveat for this video, similar to the last video. And let's get started with a really easy one to just automatically take a dump on, and I can see why. It's the band Lamb of God. So I don't even know. This is New American Gospel. So I guess of all the bands I'm going to show, this is the one I've listened to the least and the least recently. So they were a big influence on my metal listening back when I was in high school. So around like 07, 08. This is when I first started to get into metal. Actually, no, sorry, 05, 06. Time flies, so I forget when I went to school. But this was an early band I listened to. They were pretty decent then, at least as like a gateway band, but I really haven't listened to them since. I do still own some of their music, and it is decent. I guess it's like going back to it, but it's not something I would regularly spin. And if their albums disappeared from my collection, I wouldn't be worried, because I'm not going to be going to looking for them anyways. But it's a band that I think also just gets probably way too much hate, whereas they're still an okay band, at least to get yourself into the genre. You're probably not going to find yourself going back to them much, at least I didn't, but I think with anything else, it is what it is. If you don't like it, I can imagine most people probably don't. But I will say, they used to have a much less deplorable name. They were called Burning the Priest back in the day. They changed their name, probably just political correct reasons, so that they could actually travel to other places and not have people like bother them, which I'm pretty sure is the story. But if you are a fan of the crossover stuff, the early punk crossover stuff, let's say SOD or like Bad Brains, so people who don't know Lamb of God wouldn't know, but Randy Bly, the vocalist, is a really big fan of like Bad Brains. So that's the music he initially wanted to do, and then he ended up doing Lamb of God stuff. But if you go and you listen to the album 20, it's the Roman numeral 20, so 2 X's, by Burning the Priest, it's got a lot of cover songs on there. So they actually do a really good cover, in my opinion, of SOD Kill Yourself. That's a fantastic song. So if you're not a fan of this sort of modern day groove metal, which basically this is sort of like, if you don't like Pantera, this is a more modern version of Pantera. That's exactly what this is. This is groove metal. And you do like SOD, at least check out that Burning the Priest album, because I thought that was actually pretty good. So even if it's just for that one song, if you hate all the Lamb of God stuff, that's fine. Totally understand it. Listen to Burning the Priest, Kill Yourself, cover of SOD. I thought that he did pretty good justice on it. So yeah, maybe you're not going to like his vocals on that, and the music's kind of whatever against modern day Pantera, but I thought it was pretty decent, at least for that one song, if that's all you're going to listen to. Next is a little bit of a different band. People may not have heard of them, which I'm kind of not surprised, but they have 4 albums, and this is actually a 3-pack. It's a band called Sludge, or Sluggage, depending how you pronounce it. So Sluggdge. So 3 albums here: Born of Slime, Gastronomicon, and Dim and Slim Written Kingdoms. This is the 3-pack here, and it's got all 3 albums on the back. You know, they have CD, LP, and tapes, so it's kind of cool layout. But this is a newer band from the UK. I think they actually have, it's usually just the 2 band members, but I think maybe the drummer, an old drummer of another band, maybe I thought it was Municipal Waste or Black Dahlia Murder, played on one of their newer releases. I'm not sure, but otherwise, 2 guys out of England, and people could kind of get turned off by this. It reminds me a bit of the band Cannabis Corpse, where it's serious metal, but the titles are puns. So here, instead of Dark Side of the Moon, it's got a song called Dark Side of the Shroom. There's another one called, I think it was like Salt Thrower, kind of weird, like, I guess like Bolt Thrower. So it's all like sludge or slug and like mucus related, the sound of mucus, stuff like that. So it's sort of like punny titles, but the music itself is serious. It's just the titles that are, based on like a cosmic slug thing. So I mean, it's at least unique. I mean, it's not singing about the devil, and it's not singing about just the usual stuff like axe murderers. So it is a little different. But the music, the best way I can describe it, it's kind of hard. It's like technical death metal with a little bit of a blackened twinge, and it does have clean vocals, but they're kind of more operatic clean, and they have long songs, so they're 5, 6, 7 minutes. So each of the albums are double LPs, 8 songs each, 2 songs on each side. So it's different. It's not something that you're probably going to throw on. It's definitely not your underground stuff. It's just not your average band. And I would think that people would see this, they'd see the name, it's kind of dumb, it's some cosmic slug thing, and the names are dumb. I would definitely recommend still checking it out, because it's not quite as bad as you might think it is, and it does again have the clean vocals, but I think that they actually do a pretty good job with it. You just kind of have to accept the fact that this isn't going to be Sodom in the Sign of Evil, this isn't Sarcophago I, this isn't Altars of Madness or Abominations of Desolation. So this is a more modern production. It's got a bit of a unique sound, but it's one of those things where you just kind of have to listen to it. And if you like it, you like it. You don't. Sometimes it's almost worse the more you describe it. So just move on to the next one. And this band, I'm not quite sure why they get the, maybe not hate they do, but just the lack of recognition. And that's the band Revocation. So these are guys from Boston. This is the album Chaos of Forms. I picked this one because the first song I ever heard by them is on here. That's the song No Funeral. I thought the guitar solo was awesome. It's sort of like a modern sounding technical death thrash, I guess. I think the reason people probably don't care for them much is just because it has such a clean sound to it. I mean, there's so many awesome death thrash bands that are more underground, that have them more raw recording. I understand you might like that more, but I think Revocation doesn't really get maybe the attention it could deserve, but I like them a lot. I own all the albums on CD, probably half of them on vinyl. Hoping to go see them with the band I mentioned in the previous video, Necrogobicon, in May. I think just more people need to be okay with slightly cleaner sound, and I would check them out. I think especially if you're a guitar nerd. If you're not, then don't even bother. But Dave Davidson, who's the vocalist and guitarist of the band, he's really good at guitar. Went to like one of those fancy colleges for it. So if you're someone who really likes the sound of a really technical guitar, check him out, and then check out some of the bands that he recommends that he likes. There was an interview, and every single band he mentioned was super technical, bands I had never heard of, but they were all really interesting. So definitely check it out. I think they do not get the attention that I think they kind of deserve, but I kind of understand why too. So again, it's what it is. These are my guilty pleasures, not yours. So next is a band I have not listened to much since high school, but I do still own 3 of the releases. And I thought the early stuff was actually pretty good. I definitely enjoyed the sound. Later on, they went to do more like country stuff, and I was just like, this is kind of dumb. But this is the band Devil Driver. So this is the album Trust No One. can't really think of too many songs on here that stick out in my mind. Since it has been so long since I listened to them, I really don't remember a lot of the songs that I did like, but they are, again, a very decent sort of starting band. I think people shit on them too much, but this is probably one that most people, they've probably heard the name. Oh, it's okay, but kind of dumb. And then especially some of the newer stuff, it isn't that great. It's got that country vibe to it or whatever. I would still at least recommend checking out any of these bands. Just pick one song by them. If you don't like it, it's going to confirm your suspicion. Yeah, I didn't think I'd like it. It was dumb. It fits in with the deathcore and other stuff like that. That's fine, but I think some of it might be a little better than you think. So, but again, these are my guilty pleasures. So, next one is an example very similar to Infant Annihilator. This is a deathcore band, one of the few I actually do really like, and I know one of the fans out there, I'm not going to call them out, but they can call themselves out if they decide to, that I know is also a really big fan of this band, might be one of their favorites, and is the band Rings of Saturn. I absolutely love this band. This is my favorite album, especially the song Peeling Arteries. They have 5 full-length albums, and then they redid their first album. They even brought back the old singer. Currently, they are a vocalless band, which really sucks. A lot of drama with the band I'm not going to get into because I don't have the time, and if you don't like this band, you're not going to care anyways. But let's just say this band definitely went through a lot of issues, and they're not going to be the same band ever again, which again, 98% of you, it's fine, you're not going to care. But I really like this band. This is considered technical deathcore, again, very similar to Infant Annihilator. If you don't like them, you're not going to like these guys at all. But Lucas Mann, who's the main person behind this band, actually did guest guitars on the first Infant Annihilator, and then the drummer for them, Infant Annihilator, did, I think, the drums on the 4th album by this band. So they always had like a rotating drummer for this band, unfortunately, and now they don't have a singer either. This singer quit music for a while, and then now he's in the band Angel Maker, I think, which I've never listened to them because, again, for the most part, I don't really care for deathcore. And this is on Unique Leader. So, for those of you who love or hate the band Deeds of Flesh, and you ever wondered what happened to the label that I think Eric started, I know he passed away since, but I think that was his label, Unique Leader. Well, that's one of the bands that they put out. So if you're ever curious, that's the direction that they took for some of their music, and I personally enjoy it a lot. But if you're not a fan of technical deathcore, which I imagine most of you aren't, you're not going to like it. But again, I do know there's at least one person who follows on a regular basis that is a big fan. So me and him could talk about Rings of Saturn together, and the rest of you guys can just sit there and make fun of us. So that's fine. Second to last, this is a band that I bring up as probably the prime example of a band that people shit on because of things like the name, or they heard, oh, it fits into that deathcore crowd, and turns out it's probably a lot better than most of you think, and that is the band The Black Dahlia Murder. So this is unfortunately the first album without Trevor. So he was the founding member, he was the vocalist. Sadly, he took his own life a couple years ago. I'm actually really glad that the band ended up sticking it out, and they kept going, and then they took one of their oldest members. I forget who it is. I believe it was the drummer, but he ended up taking over the vocal duties. Yeah, his name is Brian. Again, I forget if he was the original drummer or guitarist, but he also started around 2003 with the band. So I am glad they continued. I did listen to this album when I first came out. Only gave it one spin so far just because there's just so much music for me to keep up with. It's kind of hard, but I did enjoy it. I own all their music. I know there's a few fans out there, like, not that this is a surprise, I'm not like calling anyone out, but I know Melanie loves death metal. She's a big fan of this band. And then when Justin Horval, J-Dog kind of made fun of it, she did like a kind of a parody video about that. And I sent him a copy. I sent him a copy of one of their later albums along with 3 Inches of Blood, and no idea if he ever listened to it or not. But I know Reaper did, because I sent him a copy of one of their albums, I think the first one, back when I did the Hellcast cool shit when I sent in stuff. And he said better than he thought. And when he did the interview, or he did the Hellcast episode with Tommy of Redefining Darkness. Tommy said that at one point he played with him, or at least played with this band, knew Trevor, and Trevor himself was huge into the underground music scene. So not that that really means much, so I'll just kind of spoil it. But another band that's on this list eventually is Ghost. Yeah, Tobias Forge knows the underground metal scene too, and he was in the band Repugnant, which I love, but obviously that doesn't mean anything for the band itself if you sound completely different. But this is, if I could pick the number one band that I think people unfairly don't like, don't listen to, dump on, whatever it is, it's probably this band. It's just good melodic death metal in the vein of At the Gates, but I would argue a little better. Their first maybe even two albums, technically had sort of a hint of black metal to it, like very, very faintly. So don't go thinking you're listening to Vlad Tepes or anything, but a very light hint of black metal in it. I think that these guys are way better than people give them credit for, not just as like an entry-level band, but sort of an all-around decent band. So if you get a chance to either pick up a used copy of an album, listen to them on YouTube, or since they're a Metal Blade band, and they have been, I think, pretty much since their inception, and you go to see Cannibal Corpse or something, and let's say they're on tour with them, and they're the opener band, I wouldn't say, like, show up late, be at the bar or something. No, actually go and watch them, see what you think. I don't think they're going to be quite as bad as you maybe think they are. So I think, especially, the name, it's the sentence name, sounds like deathcore, kind of gives it that bad taste, but not quite as bad as I think most people say. So that's it for this video. I have one more planned, and then hopefully I have some more in the future. I could actually think of a band off the top of my head that I did not carry with me, so maybe I'll just mention it in passing. You can just take my word for it that I own all the albums, but if you don't believe me, I could show it off too. But again, with this stuff, it's kind of, why wouldn't you believe me? But that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.